You've heard of pyramids, right? The great stone ones in Egypt. And you've heard of castles, the ones in Europe, all spires and moats. But have you ever heard of the city that sang with stone? A kingdom that, for centuries, was the heart of southern Africa, a titan of trade and architecture that Europe only dreamed of? No. Then lean in. For the next 20 minutes, I will tell you a story. The story of the kingdom you never learned about. The story of Great Zimbabwe. Our story begins not with a king, but with a boy. His name was Takunda, and he was 11 summers old. He lived nearly 700 years ago in the shadow of a growing wonder. The air was thin and cool at dawn on the hill complex. Below Takunda, the valley was still shrouded in mist, but the rising sun was beginning to kiss the tops of the most incredible structures he had ever known. Great, curving walls of stone, built without mortar, each block perfectly fitted to the next. They looked like the ribs of a slumbering giant, grey and immense and powerful. Takunda's father, Batanai, was a master builder. His hands, calloused and strong, could feel the personality of a stone. He would run his fingers over a granite block and know exactly where it wanted to sit in the Great Wall. "Papa," Takunda asked one morning, helping to carry a basket of smaller rocks for the inner fill. "Why do the walls curve? Why not build them straight like the trees?" Batanai smiled, a web of lines forming around his eyes. "The straight line is rigid, son. It fights the wind. It shouts its defiance. But the curve..." He placed a hand on the magnificent, sweeping wall of the great enclosure. "The curve listens. It welcomes. It holds the people within like a mother holds a child. A straight line breaks. A curve endures." This was the first lesson of Great Zimbabwe. Its genius was in its harmony. It was not a fortress built for war, but a city built for life. Its walls, some over 5 meters high and 5 meters thick, were not defensive ramparts, but symbols of prestige, of stability, of a kingdom so secure it could build for beauty and ceremony. And what a kingdom it was! By the time Takunda was a man, Great Zimbabwe was the capital of a realm that stretched from the Zambezi to the Limpopo rivers. It was the New York, the London, the Shanghai of its day. And its currency? Gold. From the mines in the kingdom came gold. Beautiful, soft sun metal. It was woven into the cloth of the nobles. It was cast into the figurines of rhinoceroses, revered for their strength. It was traded. Oh, it was traded. Merchants from the Swahili coast, sophisticated men from Kilwa and Sofala, would make the grueling journey inland. They came with their caravans, bringing treasures Takunda's people desired. Shimmering Chinese celadon pottery, vivid Indian beads of carnelian and glass, spicy cloth from Arabia. And in return, they took the gold. They took ivory from elephants that roamed the savannah. They took the hides of leopards. The great Zimbabweans were not isolated Africans. They were the central node in a global network that stretched across the Indian Ocean all the way to China. The king, the Mwene Mutapa, was one of the richest monarchs in the world, though the kings of Europe had never heard his name. Takunda, now a builder like his father, would watch these caravans arrive in the valley below. He saw the diversity of his world, the different languages, the exotic scents of cloves and cinnamon, the strange scripts on rolled-up maps. Great Zimbabwe was a cosmopolitan hub, a melting pot of ideas and cultures, all drawn by the magnetic power of its wealth and stability. At the heart of the city, both physically and spiritually, was the great enclosure. And within that, the most mysterious structure of all, the conical tower. It was a tower, solid through and through, built of the finest granite. It stood as tall as 5 men, a perfect, graceful cone. No one entered it. It had no doors, no windows, no rooms. Its purpose was a sacred secret, known only to the king and the most senior spirit mediums. Some said it was a granary, symbolizing the kingdom's wealth and food security. Others whispered it represented the feminine power of the land, a phallic symbol of the king's authority balancing it. For Takunda, it was the soul of the city, a silent stone prayer to the ancestors who watched over them. It was a promise that what they built would last forever. And for a time, it seemed it would. Generations lived and died within those curved walls. The city thrived. But then, the whispers began. It started with small things. A spring that ran a little drier one year. A season of rains that came late and left early. The land, once so generous, began to tighten its fist. Takunda, now an old man with a son and a grandson of his own, saw the signs. The grazing lands for the vast royal herds of cattle, the true measure of a family's wealth, were being overgrazed. The soil was tired. The trees were fewer. The political world was shifting too. The gold trade began to find new routes. Rival kingdoms were rising, challenging the authority of the Mwene Mutapa. The very global connections that had made them rich now made them vulnerable. The story we are often told is that great civilizations fall to invasion or catastrophe. But sometimes they simply walk away. They make a choice. One evening, Takunda stood with his grandson, Mucha, on the same hill complex where he had stood as a boy. "Grandfather, will we fix the wall there?" Mucha asked, pointing to a section where the stones had settled but not fallen. Takunda looked out over his beloved city. The sunset painted the stones in hues of orange and purple. He could hear the sounds of a city that was quieter now. Fewer looms clacking, fewer hammers ringing, fewer children laughing in the enclosures. "No, Mucha," he said, his voice soft with a wisdom that was hard-won. "We will not. And it will always be our heart," Takunda said, placing a hand on the boy's shoulder. "But a heart can be carried with you. The land is tired. It has given us centuries of life. It is not abandonment, it is respect. We are not fleeing. We are migrating. We are giving the land time to heal, to remember its strength. And we are going to find new lands, to build new communities, to let new branches of our people grow. And so, over the next century, the people of Great Zimbabwe did just that. They left their magnificent stone city, not in a panicked rush, but in a slow, deliberate procession. They took their knowledge of stonework, their laws, their lineage of kings, their memories. They moved north and south, forming new kingdoms like the Mutapa and Roswi states. They took the spirit of Zimbabwe with them. The city itself was never destroyed. It was not sacked or burned. It was released. Like a great old ancestor, it was allowed to return to the earth, to be cloaked in silence and the gentle embrace of baobab trees and whispering grasses. The storyteller stands, their voice swelling with pride and a hint of defiance. For centuries, the ruins slept. And when European explorers like Karl Mauck stumbled upon them in the 19th century, their minds could not comprehend what they saw. Such sophistication, such scale, could not, in their narrow worldview, be African. They invented wild theories, and they said it was the palace of the Queen of Sheba. They said it was built by Phoenicians or Arabs. They looted the treasures, desperate to prove it was a white civilization, Because the idea of a powerful indigenous African kingdom of architects and merchants was a truth their prejudice could not bear. But the stones do not lie. The artifacts do not lie. The oral histories of the Shona people, the descendants of Takunda and Batanai, do not lie. Great Zimbabwe was not a mystery. It was a milestone. It was a testament to African genius, to a vision of power that was communal, curved, and in harmony with the land. It was a kingdom that mastered economics, astronomy, for the walls align with the solstices, and architecture. So the next time you see a picture of a castle, remember the city that sang with stone. Remember the curved walls that listened to the wind. Remember the silent, solid tower that held a people's soul. Remember the gold that connected continents. Remember Takunda, the builder, and his choice to leave with grace, carrying his civilization in his heart, not just in his stones. You never learned about it before, but now you know. The story of Great Zimbabwe is not a story of a lost city. It is the story of a people who knew how to build a kingdom and, just as importantly, knew when it was time to let it become a legend. And that is a story worth remembering. If this story of a powerful African kingdom was new to you, then you should probably subscribe and hit the bell, because we're just getting started. We have so many more stories from history that you never learned about. The history you know is a fraction of the history that exists. Help us uncover more of it by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Your support allows us to keep telling these vital stories. What other forgotten civilization do you want to hear about? Let me know in the comments below. The Kingdom of Kush, the Mali Empire, the Gupta Dynasty? Your suggestion might be our next video.